Good morning, everybody. Shift your mindset here with a new episode. The court case, day 6, testimonies from former Jehovah's Witnesses. And I want to start with, it was lovely to see that in the weekend people came to show their support for all the people who were testifying in this court case. Also from me, and I think I speak for everyone, almost everyone who's watching this channel, we want to send you guys our love and support. I think you guys are heroes to take the stand and publicly defend our case. The case of shunning, the case of being disfellowshipped, and all the consequences that comes with it. I think you guys are heroes. I think you guys have a lot of courage. It's an intense moment to be in front of the Jehovah's Witnesses, to be in front of the Jehovah's Witness lawyer who can ask you some questions, but you're doing such a good job to bring awareness in this world, not only in this country, but in this world, about the policies and everything that Jehovah's Witnesses has in place that is hurtful, that's not human, and that they are doing things that harm our mental and physical health. So from me, and I think a lot of my followers, our love and support for this court case and the remaining days. It was a day with testimonies from former Jehovah's Witnesses, and one of them is Raquel, and she is now a 27-year-old nurse, but she grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. Of course, she get baptized, and that's what I want to highlight, shaming by the elders. And we all experience this, shaming by the elders. Because she was summoned to a judicial committee for having friends outside her faith. Witness friends threatened her, if you don't report to the elders, we will. And we all know that one or two snitching friends of us during growing up in the Jehovah's Witness religion that saw something that you did and they say to you, if you don't go to the elders, we will. So you feel pressured, you feel ashamed, you feel guilty, so you go to the elders. The elders asked her if she had done enough to prevent what happened. She said, I knew my conscience was clear, but they treated me like I was in the wrong. And that's one thing we see everywhere in every country, in every congregation coming back, that although your own conscience is clear, they make it perfectly clear to you that something is wrong with you. And there starts the guilt tripping in your conscience. She distanced herself during COVID. She was inactive. She didn't say it out loud, but in heart. She had a farewell with the family and friends because she knew they would distance themselves. So again, she highlighted there is no personal conscience, there is no personal decision. It's a common policy in the JWs, directly from the governing body, that everybody in the congregation knows when I leave, then people are gonna distance themselves from me. That's the truth, and not those testimonies from the JWs. So her younger brother, 15-year-old, isn't baptized but still following the rules. because they are raised in the same system. And that's the problem. If you are born in Jehovah's Witness, it's so hard to break out of that mind control thinking. She said, it's said that you are free to join other religions. True, you are free to make your own choices. But if I had, I would have been disfellowshipped anyway. So she became inactive. Of course, the elders reached out and they wanted to get her back. The lawyer downplayed her whole experience as mere discomfort. And that's what they do. They said before the court case started that there is no discomfort in leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses. But she replied, I resigned. She replied, it's not the same, Mr. Lawyer. I started from scratch because I had 0 worldly friends after middle school. And that's the truth. So thank you, Raquel, for being that honest to show the court and to give a good reply to that JW lawyer that you are starting from scratch when you leave. No one is getting involved with you. Then we had Leander, and it was an emotional testimony day, because also Leander in Oslo, he had the choice between suicide and leaving Jehovah's Witnesses. And that's where it hits hard, people, because we lost too many people on suicide. Luckily, he didn't do it, but he had a choice. Luckily, he chose for life this time. But other people didn't choose for keep on living. They choose for suicide as only way out. And then it hits hard that it's a cruel policy we all had to face, to being disfellowshipped or to disassociate. He wanted to end his life at only 16, but fortunately he started at a high school when he was 17. He started becoming skeptical when friends were summoned before Jehovah's Witness Judicial Committee. Friends of him were summoned for the Judicial Committee. He was forced, I think as a witness, to describe in detail to 4 or 5 elders how they engaged in oral sex and other intimate acts. So he developed mental health issues. Of course he was getting mental health issues. We all know the crazy, obnoxious, terrifying questions the elders ask you in a judicial committee. How often did you have sex? How did you have sex? Was it oral sex? Did you enjoy it? All those stupid things just for their own pathetic knowing, I think, because it has nothing to do with the Bible or making a decision of that person. So you have some crazy elders walking around this earth, unfortunately. So he tried to separate him from the organization, but the elders visited him for 6 months in a row. For 6 months, people. He was desperate to stop it. He wrote letters demanding that they leave him alone. His family distanced themselves, but the elders continued visiting him, trying to bring him back. Eventually, he had to move to Oslo, another city, to escape the harassment. Otherwise, if he stayed in Odda, another place, he said they would never stop harassing me. And good for him and for everyone to know, he emphasizes that there is no difference between those who resign and those who are disfellowshipped, because you both get ostracized and dehumanized. Then a little bit more famous guy who's testifying, Jan Frode Nielsen, his third time already that he testifies for the Norwegian court. A very charming man, lovable, but he had a hard history for being Jehovah's Witness. He grew up 17 years old, highly active in the faith, serving as an auxiliary pioneer. But at 20 years, he started facing a crisis leading to depression. He married at 23, 3 children, which made him question the faith even more. His last Kingdom Hall meeting was in 2012, and he struggles with leaving because he wants to distance himself quietly, hoping to maintain a connection with his children and with the JW family. However, we all know the stress of the balancing art impacts your health. Because you have to balance, you're not believing, but you want the connection with your family. On the other hand, you don't want to have anything to do with the Jehovah's Witnesses. And that is when the tug of war in your head starts. And that can lead to mental health issues. So people, if you are watching, be careful on how you proceed, leaving the faith or staying in the faith. You have to have a clear conscience about it. Shh. The rooster is also awake. So, in January 2020, 2 elders confronted him at his home when he was walking his dog, and he refused for a judicial committee. Following day, his disfellowship was announced. That's how they roll. So he became a whistleblower. He was getting a more public figure, and that lawyer from the Watchtower attempted to link Jan's mental health struggles to his divorce, of course, but that argument he refused immediately. He said, being disfellowshipped, not personal relationship, is all the root of my suffering. He has years of therapy to recover from the institutionalized, mentally imposed JW organization. And it's his third time testifying against the Jehovah's Witnesses. And as before, also this one highlights again the emotional and physiological toll of being raised in a high control religion. His story also, like the previous one, exemplifies the consequences of disfellowshipping and the struggle we all have when we are leaving the faith. And that's the honest truth. We all leave. When we leave, we struggle to find back our own identity, who we are, and we have to deprogram ourselves from that high control group. Then there was another witness, and she had experienced the trauma of disfellowshipping. And all those testimonies, there was a testimony from a former circuit overseer. He said, you never know how people will react. And we had to determine if someone was truly remorseful, sometimes ruining a person's life by disfellowshipping them. So he had remorse for this fellowshipping other people. He also had the confrontation, of course, with the elders. It was shameful and it was embarrassing. And that's also the highlight of today, the way elders treat you and how you feel after that. Always the guilt trip, but that first meeting with the elders when he was 16, 17 year old and he did something wrong. He wasn't disfellowshipped, but his parents were informed and the whole process was shameful and embarrassing. And that haunts you, people. Those confrontations with elders at 16, 17 or 18 years old, that haunts you the rest of your life, because it makes such a big impact on you on that moment. So he also grew critical of teachings, and he said one thing they don't want is Jehovah's Witnesses don't like critical thinking. And that's what I like. I like critical thinking, because then we're getting somewhere. And he said there was so much judgment and backstabbing in the organization, I couldn't stand by it anymore. He's not being officially disfellowshipped, but he has been treated as such. Nobody reached out to me. I lost everything. Also, to reconnect with friends, unsuccessful. Not a chance. So, this were some highlights of the testimony, but it is a clear and a painful pattern. Control, fear, and profound personal loss. All experiences and parts of a larger reality, because I think me and you who is watching can relate with all the things I was highlighting. The fear they bring, how the elders treat you, how you feel ashamed afterwards, how you get isolated if you are being disfellowshipped or you no longer want to be a Jehovah's Witness anymore. We all have been there. We all had to start from scratch with our friends. Maybe you were also lucky enough, just like me, to have already some friends on the outside, but basically you are starting from scratch. So all those testimonies, we can relate to that. We can imagine also how it would feel for them. And it's a little bit of a reassurance, maybe for me, for you, that you're not alone, that you're not the only one who experienced such heavy things. Take some comfort out of that, people, that you're not alone, that there are enough people around you, around the world, on Mother Earth, who experience the exact same pattern of fear and isolation. We're not alone, people. We're never alone. So many of those witnesses now have spoken about the trauma of judicial committees, and I can relate to that. The fear of being disfellowshipped. If you didn't have friends on the outside world, likely it is that you run back to the Jehovah's Witnesses to be reinstated, because that world is all you know. So I have some empathy for those who return to the Jehovah's Witnesses, because they felt isolated. I get that. And these testimonies highlight the emotional toll of being cut off from family and friends. And we all experience that. As of today, for today, I never talked to my family. They never reached out to me. They never texted me, nothing. So I'm happy with those heroes of former Jehovah's Witnesses who are taking the stand and tell the court as it is. I couldn't find not one lie in the testimony of the former JWs. So I'm grateful for that, because I like honesty, I like critical thinking, and I like to speak out like it is, to tell the truth about something. Even when it's difficult, I like the truth more than everything else. And I couldn't find anything in the testimonies of the former Jehovah's Witnesses that was false. So I'm happy, I'm grateful, and I have so much respect for those guys who were brave enough to take the stand yesterday on Monday to tell the whole world who's listening exactly how it goes inside that religion. So, facing elders, feeling like your whole life can be taken away from you, being treated as if you never existed, even without official disfellowshipping. Parents lost the children, children lost the parents, not because of wrongdoing, but because a rigid belief system that discourages critical thinking. And it enforces loyalty, absolute loyalty to the religion. So guys, these were the testimonies and the highlights. I think we all can relate to the things I highlighted. Being terrified, facing the elders, also terrifying moments, feeling like your whole life can be taken away by those elders who have the authority to disfellowship you and to cut all family ties. They have control over you. So people, wake up. Don't let anybody in the world have some kind of control over you. Start your critical thinking and be free. Thank you guys for watching. See each other on the next episode.